Good morning children, how are you all? Hope all of you are keeping fine and in very good health. So, in today's class, we will be discussing about some of the portions which you have to learn for your pre-midterm examination and also the portions which are not included in this examination. So, in the last class, we have studied about chapter number 2, that is Is Matter Around Us Pure. So, before going into the detail, we will just study which are the portions we have to learn. Now, chapter number 1, which has been completed for you, is not included in the syllabus. It is deleted by the CBSE board. At the same time, chapter number 2, there are certain topics which has been deleted now, that is separation of mixtures. So, in separation of mixtures, we studied about evaporation, centrifugation, sublimation, then using separating funnel, how to separate oil and water, then crystallization, distillation and fractional distillation. So all those portions have been deleted. So now let's concentrate on what you are going to study. I'll just give you some guidelines how you are going to prepare for your examination. Be perfect with that and try to score very good marks. Now, the first one, you are supposed to learn the definitions of all these 18 topics which we had covered. So in that, it is first one, mixtures. What is the definition of mixture? Homogeneous mixture, heterogeneous mixture, solution, solute, solvent, concentration of a solution, problems based on concentration of a solution, solubility of a salt, suspension, colloid, properties, alloys, types of colloids, physical change, chemical change, elements and compounds, and the difference between elements, compounds and mixture. So this is how you have to, the basic important topics which you have to learn from this chapter. Now first, mixtures, what we had learned. Mixtures are nothing but they are components, there are substances which are made up of the pure form of matter. So two or more substances, pure substances which combine, it forms a mixture. Mixture can be further classified as homogeneous or heterogeneous mixture. In homogeneous mixture, I have already told you that it is nothing but a type of mixture in which the components of a mixture are uniformly distributed. There is no physical distinct layers in it. The components are uniformly mixed. For example, salt dissolved in water or sugar dissolved in water. Heterogeneous mixture is the mixture in which there is the components of a mixture are not uniformly distributed. There is a clear two distinct physical distinct layers can be seen once you keep the mixture undisturbed for some time. For example of heterogeneous mixture is oil in water, sand when it is mixed in water, or chalk powder dissolved in water, or when you take wheat powder and dissolve in water. All those are examples of heterogeneous mixtures. Then we have studied about solution. Solution is nothing but it is a homogeneous mixture of two or more substances. There is no, that is the components of a solution are uniformly distributed. Solution is further made up of two components, that is solute and a solvent. Solute is the component of a solution which is present in less quantity, which is dissolved in another component, that is known as solvent. Solvent, whereas it is another component of a solution which is present in larger quantity and which dissolves a lesser quantity solute in it. So solute when combines with solvent, it gives solution. Now concentration of the solution. How to calculate the concentration of the solution? And then I told you that is when you are dissolving solute or salt in water, when you take little bit of salt and dissolve in water, it forms a dilute solution. Okay, but when you take more and salt, you go on dissolving the solution in water, it forms a concentrated solution. So concentrated solution has more solute in it and dilute solution has very less quantity of solute in it. Now how to calculate the concentration of the solution is, I told you the three different formulas. One is mass by mass percentage of the solution you can calculate, or mass by volume percentage of the solution you can calculate, or by volume percentage calculation of the, that is using that formula you can calculate the this one percentage or the concentration of the solution. Then another important one I told you, that is when you are dissolving a salt in water, and if the salt is in very high quantity, the solute is in higher quantity, what happens? You reach a point where no more solute can be dissolved in that solvent. So what kind of solution you will get? You will get a saturated solution. So saturated solution has very large quantity of solute in it, where no more solute can be dissolved in it. And this is known as the solubility of the solute also is nothing but in water it increases with increase in temperature. The solubility of a solute increases with increase in the temperature. That's another important concept I told you, solubility of a salt. And the solution in which the salt is present in very less quantity, where more of solute can be dissolved, is known as unsaturated solution. Then the next topic which we had covered was nothing but suspension. Suspension is nothing but, that is, it has the particles which is of larger size compared to that of solution. In solution, salt dissolved in solvent in water, the particle size is very less. It's less than 1 nanometer. It is not visible through naked eye. So what happened? The particles of a solution can pass through the filter paper. You can't separate the particles of a solution by filtration. It passes through the filter. It is so tiny. It will just pass through the filter paper. That is very important. And the particles are very small in size, so it is not having the property to scatter a beam of light. So the light passes through it. So it doesn't show the Tyndall effect. That is by solution. Suspension, what happened? The size of the solute is very big compared to that of solution. It is visible through naked eye. We can see it. Like sand dissolved in water, you can see the sand particle. Chalk dissolved in water, you can see the chalk particles. So all that is nothing but suspension. And suspension, because of this property, the particles of a suspension can scatter a beam of light. So that effect is known as Tyndall effect. Another important thing, that is the particles are bigger in size, so it cannot pass through a filter paper. So particles of a suspension can be separated by filtration, but in solution it cannot be separated by filtration. Then colloid. Colloid has it's also a homogeneous mixture. It has a particle size in between that of a solution and that of a suspension. Particles are not as big as that found in suspension, and it's not very small as in solution. It is intermediate size. So, but here also colloidal particles, because it is little bit bigger than the particles found in solution. So what happened? The particles of a colloid also has a tendency to scatter the beam of light, known as Tyndall effect. And the particles of a colloid also, it cannot pass through that is it just passes through the filter paper. You cannot filter it by separating the particles of a colloid. Next important, these are the properties of solution, suspension and colloid, which I discussed with you. All of you must learn that. It's very important. Next which we had learned was alloys. Alloys is nothing but it is a homogeneous solution of two or more metals, or metal and a non-metal, like carbon will be there in it. So it is and then they are not, the alloy doesn't form a physical layer. In that what happened, for example, brass. When brass is made, molten zinc will be melted, and in that the copper will be added. So molten zinc, the copper will be melted and added and to be mixed thoroughly, and that forms an alloy. So it changes the property of copper, it gives a strength to that material. So that is known as an alloy. So brass is nothing but is an example of alloy. So it has 30% of zinc in it and 70% of copper in it. Then types of colloid also, based on the that is colloids can be either, it can be solid alloy, or solid in liquid alloy, or gas in gas alloy. So aerosol, sol, all are nothing but different forms of colloids. Then we had studied about what is physical change and chemical change. In physical change, what happened? A change in which no new component is formed. But in a chemical change, what happened? When two or more substances combine, a new component is formed, which is having a different property than the original component which it is made up of. Examples of physical change is nothing but melting of ice, melting of wax, dissolution of salt in water, all that is example of physical change. Magnetization of iron, but rusting of iron, burning of a candle, burning of paper, burning of wood, all are example of chemical change. Then in the end, what you have to learn? What are elements and compounds? Elements are nothing but pure substances which is made up of only one kind of atoms, okay, and which cannot be broken down into a further, that is cannot be separated by any physical means like evaporation or centrifugation. We cannot separate the components of element. Compounds. Compounds are also pure substances which is made up of one or more than one elements or compounds. And here also the components of a compound cannot be separated by physical method, but it can be separated by chemical method or by electrochemical method. So that's what the important definitions which you have to learn from chapter number 2. I have given you a brief guideline how you have to prepare, learn the examples well of all, learn the properties of all very well, and be well prepared for the examination. Now next topic I will tell you how to do the calculations based on the concentration of a solution, that is percentage concentration of a solution, how you can calculate it. Now children, let's do a problem based on the how to calculate the concentration of a solution by mass percentage of the solution. So the formula which I told you, mass by mass percentage of a solution can be calculated by mass of the solution divided by mass of the solution, not the solvent, mass of the solution into 100. So when you calculate the percentage, you have to multiply that by 100. For example, you have that is 50 grams of salt, common salt, is dissolved in, for example, 200 grams of water. You have to calculate the percentage concentration of salt in water. So how you are going to calculate it? Follow the steps properly first. What is given? You have to calculate, write down mass of the solute. Which is a solute here? The solute is salt. So which is equal to 50 grams. Then what is the second point given to you? Mass of the, what is water? Water is dissolving. So what it is known as? Mass of solvent. Mass of solvent is equal to 200 grams. Then what you are going to do? The third step, you have to add these two. So you will get the mass of the solution. So therefore, mass of the solution is equal to 50 plus 200. How many grams it will be totally? It will be 250 grams. Now what you have to do? Substitute these values in the formula and then calculate the percentage. So how you are going to do it? Mass of the solute. What is the mass of the solute given? 50. What is the mass of the solution? Don't take mass of the solvent. You have to take always mass of the solution. So divided by 250. And then to calculate the percentage, multiply by 100. So when you calculate it, what you are going to get? You will be getting 20% will be the concentration of the solution. Okay, so the salt, how much it is dissolved in water? It is 20% concentrated. So if you add more and more salt in it, the concentration of the salt will be increasing. If you add more, it will become 50%, then it might become 75%, and finally it will become 100%. That will be the saturated solution. So saturation, that is the saturated solution you can obtain by increasing the temperature. You can add more and more salt into it. So this is how you have to prepare for your exam. Learn the notes very well. The textbook is very important. Learn all the properties. First learn the definitions. Learn the properties of solution, suspension, colloid, and then all the problems which I told you. Physical change, chemical change, and what are elements, compounds, and finally difference between elements, compounds, and mixture. Now after this, what we will I'll give you the introduction for the next chapter which we are going to learn. That is nothing but chapter number 4. So we are going to study that in detail. So let's concentrate on that. Now let's concentrate on the next chapter which we are going to study is nothing but structure of the atom. We have studied about atoms and all in the previous classes. In the first chapter you have studied atoms are the smallest particle of an element, and then that is matter. Matter also you have studied. Matter is nothing but it is made up of anything which is which has mass and occupies space is known as matter. And matter, the space occupied by matter is known as volume. And based on this matter is nothing but it is made up of tiny particles which are known as atoms. And based on the arrangement of atoms, the matter can be classified into solid, liquid or gases based on the arrangement that you have learned it. Now let's study a little bit more in detail about atom. That is, whether atom can be further, it can be divided into more tiny particles, or there are any subatomic particles present in the matter. Is there any charge which is present in the matter, and who discovered the different subatomic particles of matter and all, we are going to discuss in this chapter. So atoms and molecule, that is nothing but matter is made up of tiny particles known as atoms, and atoms combine to form molecules. Then you have seen that the basic concept about the atoms and all, that it was given by one famous chemist, John Dalton. John Dalton, during his experiments and all, he had said that atom is the tiniest particle of matter, and that he said that it is indivisible. We cannot divide atoms further. That is the smallest particle. It is indivisible. We cannot divide it further. And then he said that atoms are the particles which is participating in a chemical reaction, and thereby atoms can neither be created nor destroyed in a chemical reaction. So these were the certain proposals or John Dalton's atomic theory which had come forward. So according to him, atoms cannot be divided further and they are indestructible. But by the mid of 18th century and all that, it was found that many studies was done on the atom and all, and based on the chemical reactions and all, it came into, that is, some of the scientists, they came into conclusion that no, atoms can be divided into further subatomic particles. For example, you must have seen that, all of you must have done this experiment. You have to take a plastic scale or a comb and rub it on your hair, and then take pieces of paper, just put it over it. You can see that the pieces of paper will be attracted by the plastic scale or the plastic comb. Why that happens? It is because there is certain kind of charged particle which is present on the scale. You know, it is made up of plastic, comb is made up of plastic. All they are nothing but it is a matter. Plastic is it is an organic compound. So what happened based on this, that is atoms, they have certain charged particle in it. Certain discoveries were made, was studied to further prove that no, atoms can be divided, it can be divided into further subatomic particles. So first study in that, it came by, that is Goldstein. Okay, so before Goldstein also, by J.J. Thomson, he had visualized a model of structure of an atom. He had postulated that atom, that is the atom looks like a sphere, like a Christmas pudding. So a sphere which is made up of all positive charges, and in that it is studied the negative charges are present. So electrons are nothing but negatively charged particles which is distributed in a field of positively charged material. So that negatively charged particle, the concept of electrons was given by J.J. Thomson. So his model, J.J. Thomson's model of an atom was a sphere which is positively charged, and then in the sphere, here and there, like cherries, how it is studied in the pudding and all that, electrons are distributed in the positively charged field, that is the sphere. That was given by that. But much before that, one chemist by name Goldstein, he had performed certain experiment by using a discharge tube, and then there are two ends of a discharge tube. One end is positively charged and other end is a negatively charged. The negatively charged end is known as cathode and the positively charged is known as the anode. So when certain amount of, during his experiment, he saw that along with certain kind of rays, there is also positive rays which is passing through the discharge tube, and he called those rays as canal rays. Canal rays are nothing but they are positively charged. So much before that, electrons was discovered by J.J. Thomson, and then after that, Goldstein, one chemist, he while doing his experiment by using a gas discharge tube, he also came into a conclusion, not only the negative charge particle, that is rays of particles are passing in a gas discharge tube, there is at the same time positive charge particles are also passing through the gas discharge tube, and he called them as canal rays. Canal rays are nothing but positive rays, right? And then based on his conclusion of Goldstein and J.J. Thomson, he also came into the discovery of another charged particle which is of equal magnitude of electrons and name them as protons. And these canal rays were known as protons. Protons are nothing but the charge of proton is positive, and the mass, what about the mass? The mass of protons was found to be about 2000 times that of electrons. That means the mass of electron is very negligible, but the charge of electron is negative. But the protons are positively charged particles, and the mass of proton is around 2000 times much more than the electrons. So with these two scientists, they had come into the conclusion that atoms are divisible, and the subatomic particles of an atom are one positively charged particles, we call them as protons, and the negatively charged particles are known as electrons. So the charge of electron is negative, the mass of electron is negligible, almost considered as zero, whereas the mass of proton is around 2000 times more than electrons, and the charge of proton is positively charged. So now I want all of you to look into the slide and look into the pictures which I am showing about the discharge tube and about the J.J. Thomson's model of an structure of an atom, as well as Goldstein's experiment, how he proved that there are positive charged particles present in an atom. So I want all of you to look into the slide and understand the concept very well and write the notes which I have given in the slides. So children, let's see the slides. We're going to study about the chapter structure of the atom. In this chapter, we'll be learning about what is an atom, charged particles in a matter, canal rays, protons, electrons, Thomson's model of an atom, and finally revision for the pre-midterm examination. Now, look at this activity. All of you must have performed this. Now, it's simple activity. What you can do it at home, and you have to do it. Take a comb made up of plastic or a scale. Rub it on any synthetic material and then run it over a piece of paper. And then you will be seeing that the pieces of paper will be attracted by the comb. Same thing, you can do the activity with a balloon. Take an inflated balloon and rub it on synthetic material or silk material and then just run it over a piece of paper. You can see the piece of paper will be attracted by the balloon. So what is this? Why this balloon and the comb has become charged? So the comb and the balloon has become charged because it is made up of matter, and matter in turn are made up of charged particles. So this is nothing but electrostatic energy which is present in these matter. So with the presence of these charged particles, we can conclude that there are certain charged particles present in an atom, and the discovery of that led to many postulates about the structure of atom. So one such postulate was made by John Dalton in the year 1807. He proposed that a series of statements regarding the atom that became to be known as Dalton's postulates or Dalton's atomic theory. So according to him, atoms cannot be created or destroyed in a chemical reaction. You know that all the matter is made up of atoms, and atoms combine to make molecules. And depending on the arrangement of molecules, the matter can be classified as solid, liquid or gases. And matter is made up of atoms. So according to John Dalton, atom is the smallest particle of an matter, and it cannot be divided further into smaller particles. And then he further said different elements have atoms of different masses and properties. That means like the atom of hydrogen is different from atom of oxygen, nitrogen, chlorine, and all those, they have different masses and they have different properties. So different elements like hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, etc. have different masses and different properties. The third statement was atoms of the same element have the same size, mass and structure. So for example, hydrogen atom. So according to John Dalton, he said hydrogen atom, from whichever method is the preparation of hydrogen, the element have the same size, mass and structure. And then finally he concluded matter is comprised of small particles called atoms, and atoms are indivisible. It cannot be created nor destroyed. So these were the parts of the John Dalton's original atomic theory. Later there were many changes made on this statement. Atoms cannot be created or destroyed in a chemical reaction when many subatomic particles, that is 3 subatomic particles of atoms, were discovered by different scientists by carrying out various experiments that we are going to study in the first part of this chapter. And later this Dalton's atomic theory was replaced and it was known as modern atomic theory. So, what is an atom? Atom is the smallest unit of matter. It is a building block of matter. It cannot exist independently and they are the smallest unit of an element which can take part in a chemical reaction. And in the previous chapter you have learned elements can be further classified as metals, non-metals, noble gases and metalloids. So all the elements are nothing but they are made up of the smallest particle. They are the atom, and with the atom is the one which take part in a chemical reaction. Now this is an experiment carried out to find out what are the subatomic particles in an atom. So first the William Crookes in the year 1878. This is a diagram of a discharge tube, and in the discharge tube it is filled with a gas at very low temperature. The gases can be hydrogen or noble gases like helium, argon, krypton, etc. So in this experiment there are two ends, just like the battery. In the battery you must have seen on top there is a cap, metallic cap, that is the positive end and it is known as anode. And in the battery you must have seen the lower end of metallic plate, that is negative end and that is known as cathode. So just like battery, in the discharge tube there are two ends which is fitted to pass the electric discharge through it. So this part which is connected to the positive terminal of the battery is known as anode, and this perforated, which has many holes in it, which is connected to the negative terminal of the battery, is known as cathode. So when the electric discharge was passed through it by William Crookes, he did this experiment. He saw that certain blue color rays emitting from cathode and it was moving towards anode. Since it evolved from cathode and they were known as cathode rays, and they are negatively charged particles. They were moving towards the positively charged anode. So they were named as cathode rays. Later, this experiment, that is this cathode rays, were later named as electrons. So this is the structure of discharge tube, and then afterwards the same discharge tube was taken and then more electric current was passed through it. Then it was seen that there were few positive rays which was traveling from anode to cathode at the same time, and they passed through this perforated holes. So the negative charge rays was passing from cathode to anode. At the same time some positive ray charges also was passing from anode to cathode. So these positive charges which move from anode to cathode were known as canal rays, and later it was renamed as protons. So Eugene Goldstein in the year 1886, he is a German physicist, he found rays traveling in the opposite direction of that of cathode rays in a cathode ray tube and called these rays as canal rays. Later it was named as protons. So what are canal rays? Canal rays are positively charged radiations created in a gas discharge tube. These rays were later renamed as protons. Then what is the mass and charge of the proton? So the mass of the proton was approximately 2000 times as heavy as that of an electron. So it is much heavier than electron. And the mass of proton, for calculating, it is taken as 1 unit. And what is the charge of the proton? The charge of the proton is +1, or it is known as unit positive charge. They are positively charged particles. So protons, they evolved from anode. So they are positively charged particles, and it is represented as small p, small letter p, and a superscript of plus should be written. So this is how protons will be represented. So mass of the proton is 2000 times as heavy as an electron, and the unit of proton is +1, or unit positive charge. The mass of the proton is taken as 1 unit. Now what is the mass of the second subatomic particle, that is electron? The mass of electron is considered as negligible, very less. almost equal to 0. The mass of electron is approximately equal to 1 divided by 1837 of the mass of a proton. So it is very, very tiny and negligible mass. What is the charge of the electron is -1 or unit negative charge. They are negatively charged particles and they are represented as E minus should be written on top. So small letter E will be written for representing electrons. So protons and electrons are two subatomic particles of an atom. So the postulate which was given by John Dalton, that is atom is indivisible, it was proved wrong. So two subatomic particles were discovered, that is one was the electron and the next one was proton. Then you have studied about the charge of the proton and charge of the electron. Now what will be the charge of the atom if it contains one electron and one proton? So the charge of the atom will be neutral, that is it will be electrically neutral if it contains one positively charged and one negatively charged. So if there are equal number of positively charged proton and equal number of negatively charged electron in an atom, the charge of an atom will be neutral. So the charge of all the atoms which we are going to study, the elements are made up of atoms. So if the atom contains equal number of protons and equal number of electrons, then the charge of the atom will be neutral. It's very important. Later, that is J.J. Thomson, he had carried out the gas discharge tube experiment and he had found out the electrons, and he also, based on his experiment, he gave a structure of an atom. He gave a interpretation. So Thomson believed that electrons were plums embedded in a positively charged pudding, and that is why it is called as plum pudding model. So according to him, if this is a sphere of an atom and it is made up of positively charged particles, the electrons are found embedded in this field of positively charged particles. This was Thomson's atomic model. And it is very clear in this diagram. This was the diagram that is given by Thomson about the structure of an atom. He said the orange part to be the positively charged protons, and inside that the electrons were embedded like the cherries and all which in the pudding. So this is the structure of Thomson's model. Another comparison can be done with a watermelon. So the red edible part can be considered as a proton, that is a positively charged, and the black color seeds can be representing the electrons. So this was the Thomson's model of atom. Now, what were the postulates of J.J. Thomson's model of an atom? And you have to draw the diagram in your notebook neatly. So, J.J. Thomson proposed that an atom consists of a positively charged sphere and the electrons are embedded in it. Positively charged sphere and electrons are embedded in it. In an atom, the negative and positive charges are equal in magnitude. So, the atom as a whole is electrically neutral. So these were the postulates of J.J. Thomson, which was very important. And in the next class, we are going to study about the more discoveries, that is the discovery of nucleus and discovery of neutrons by Rutherford and all. So that we'll be studying in the next class. Now, the revision work for pre-midterm examination, you have to write the definitions of all this in your notebook and write the heading as revision for pre-midterm examination and learn it well. So you have to write the definition, and wherever example is possible, you must write the example. So you have to define what is mixtures, homogeneous mixture, heterogeneous mixture, solution, solvent, solute, suspension, colloid, what is Tyndall effect, alloy, physical change and chemical change, the distinction between them, an example for each, what are elements and compounds, the difference between elements and compounds, what is a concentrated solution, dilute solution, saturated solution, and solubility of a solution. So please write and learn the definitions of all this and write the examples properly, and also solve the problems based on to calculate the concentration of a solution. Now, as I told you, the portion for your pre-midterm exam will be only chapter 2, and chapter 1 is deleted by the CBSE board. So the whole chapter 1 is deleted. Chapter 2, separation of mixtures, from page number 19 to 23 is also deleted. So that won't be asked for the examination. Now, Write the notes of chapter 4 in your classwork. Read page 246 and 47 of chapter 4. Revise well for the pre-midterm examination. Write and learn the given revision work in your notebook and read the textbook and notes thoroughly. Learn all the spellings well and all the best for your exam. Prepare well. Thank you, children.